And our way to a wonderful life message for today is Jesus. Prayer is communion. And we're going to be looking at all the teachings of the Mastermind Jesus from now until Easter so that we can really get it into our mind what he was trying to tell us, so that we can realize for ourselves once and for all that he was teaching us that what one can do, all can do. Greater things still, he said, greater things still than we've ever done before, we've ever imagined ourselves doing, being, or having, is available to us, but we must learn how to be receptive to it and accept it. As Jesus tells us in the Gospel of Luke 11:9 through 10, in the Holy Bible, and this is the King James Version, and I say unto you, ask and it shall be given you, seek and ye shall find, knock and for everyone that asks receives, and he that seeks finds, and to him that knocks it shall be open. So let's look at these words and let's understand them, because Jesus was speaking in the Aramaic language, and ask means to claim. Claim that thing that comes to you in your mind as a good desire that takes nothing away from anyone else, nor diminishes anyone in any way, shape, or form, including yourself, and know that it is God's good for you, that it is God's good for you, that God is seeking to bring it to your awareness on how to get it, how to receive it, how to experience it, how to do it, how to be it, whatever that may be. And as we take that into our mind as our truth, and we foster and nurture and cultivate it as the truth for us personally, then we shall receive that good thing that we desire. He says, seek and ye shall find, but we must seek in our mind. Seek in our mind. Start thinking in our mind about what it is that we want to experience. And when negative ideas come to us, reject them. Just say no. Just say no. Don't get into any drama with it. Don't give power to that which is not the good, because as Jesus tells us, resist not evil. Resist not evil. And what is evil? Evil is live spelled backwards. Evil is anything that diminishes life. So seek in your mind what it is that you want and reverse that negative thing in your mind, and then replace it. Replace it with that image of yourself doing and being and having that good that you desire for yourself, and see the qualities of God in it. Does it bring you a greater peace, a greater joy? Does it bring you a greater comfort, a greater happiness, a prosperity, a success, a creativity? What is it that it brings into your life experience? See it in your mind. Replace that thing and see it as dynamic, that it's something wonderful, something good. See the image of it, the likeness of it, and let it be affirmed in your mind as the truth for you, and then rejoice and give thanks that it's yours. Rejoice and give thanks. Say, I'm thanking God every day of my life for every good thing that comes my way. So let's look at these words from the great Dr. Joseph Murphy, and he wrote this way back in 1965. He writes, prayer is always the solution, for God is a very present help in times of trouble. And we read that in the ancient wisdom, Psalms 46:1. We are instructed to pray believing, and we will receive. If this is so, and daily proofs surround us that it is, then prayer is the greatest force in all the world. Prayer is contacting, communicating, and aligning our thought with the infinite intelligence which responds to the nature of our thought and belief. Prayer will bring forth whatever we want and need in our life if we conform to the laws of our mind purposefully, sincerely, and righteously. Prayer is communion with God. Prayer is that realizing, recognizing, identifying that there is a power greater than we are that responds to us by corresponding to that which we believe to be true. And so we take that into our mind, and we realize just as the natural laws of gravity and electricity and mathematics all respond to us universally, automatically, all the same for everyone. Whether we're a saint or a sinner, it doesn't matter. Gravity doesn't reject us because of the mistakes we may have made, or give us any favor because of some saintly attitude that we have in our mind about ourselves. We know and we believe and we accept that these universal laws that Jesus was giving us are for everyone. That's the everlasting love of God that God has for us. That love is always supporting us, always lifting us up, always moving through our mind as a greater idea than what we've had before. Let's look at these words from the Bhagavad Gita, which was written 1500 B.C., that's 1500 years before Christ. Abandon all varieties of mundane religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Abandon all varieties of mundane religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. In other words, just as Jesus tells us to go into our closet and commune with God, we're reading in the Bhagavad Gita that was written 1500 BC, that we're to do the same thing. Stop listening to the world. Stop listening to the opinions of man, created religions and dogma that sometimes just holds us back, diminishes us, that makes us feel like somehow we don't have the power and the strength of the Spirit within us, that we don't have the intelligence of God within us, and let all of that go and let God fill our mind, our heart, and our soul with those ideas, that guidance and direction that is ours, and those good desires that are ours to experience. Throughout this ministry, and I've been doing this since 2002, and I've been practicing spiritual counselor for 4 or 5 years before that. It's been my consistent mission to teach people to pray and to pray often. Just as we read in the scriptures, to pray without ceasing. And what is praying? Praying, it's thinking that thought towards the good. Just as Jesus tells us, if our mind is stayed on God, on the good, then all things shall be added unto us. All good things shall be added unto us. But so many of us wait until we have an urgency or an emergency before we turn to our Maker in prayer. And for so many of us, this causes us to face struggles that are unnecessary. As we can note from the statement taken from the Bhagavad Gita, prayer has been considered essential for a healthy mind, a healthy body, and a healthy spirit for thousands of years. And from the Bhagavad Gita to the Torah to the Bible, prayer has been woven through the mystery of our relationship with God as we have evolved our spiritual awareness. All through the Old Testament and the New Testament and throughout the 4 Gospels, prayer, that development of faith within our mind that we develop through prayer, through that right thinking, has been woven through the mystery of our relationship with God. So we're in the Now Testament. We're not in the New Testament anymore. We're in the Now Testament. So in the Now Testament, we must realize and we must know and take those universal truths from all those sources, from the ancient wisdom to the Gospels, to the teachings of Jesus, and find within our own mind, our own heart, that level of faith, that measure of faith that will create for us a greater joy. Both Jesus and Krishna before him taught that we are to turn to God always, first with love for God and then for the blessings of the Spirit. And what does this love mean? It means attention. Just as Jesus tells us. The Father is Spirit, and we must worship him, give our attention to him, love him, trust in him, depend on him, know that we're a part of him, and we must do this in spirit and in truth. Yet too often religions have separated us from that unconditional love that God has for us by inventing rules and regulations and dogma that create doubt and guilt and shame and fear in our hearts and minds. In the Bhagavad Gita, we can read, "Do not fear," and the Mastermind Jesus stated, "Fear not, little flock, for it is the Father's good pleasure to give to you." It is the Father's good pleasure to give to you. We are told we are born in sin, and even those who tell us there is no sin will tell us we don't have the consciousness. And if we believe either of these false ideas, we have separated ourselves from God and our spirit. And the scripture we can read, "Thou art of pure eyes than to behold evil, and canst not look on iniquity." It's saying God does not see the sin. God does not see the iniquity. God has only seen us in the image and likeness in which we've been created, that image and likeness that we must get back to in our mind and our heart and our soul, so that we can realize that God is our all in all, that God is our everything. That's from the book of Habakkuk. That's Habakuk. I can't pronounce it. Habakuk. I'm sure I would mispronounce it. But it's in Habakuk 1:13. "Thou art of pure eyes and to behold evil, and canst not look on iniquity." This is truth revealed, but not necessarily understood then, nor by very many people now. Yet it is very simple. there is no God of reward and punishment, but instead there's this divine intelligence which has created a universal law of sowing and reaping, just as Jesus tells us, that God has an everlasting love for us. In other words, in any moment, at any time, in the twinkling of an eye, we can transform our mind, renew our mind, refresh our mind back to that image and likeness that God has created us in, and realize that we are part of this life that God is, that we are part of this power, this intelligence, this spirit, because we can think, we can analyze, we can choose, we can make decisions. We have that intelligence within us. So now that we understand that God is always available and the laws of God are always supporting us in our good, we can realize just what he was saying when he said, just surrender unto me, just surrender unto me. And that's what Jesus was really telling us, to go into that closet, give up all the things that you think you know, give up all the ideas that you learned from the world that no longer benefit you, that no longer bring you any peace or joy in your mind, that no longer give you that support for you to believe that you can do and you can be and you can have those things, those good desires that come into your heart, and just let yourself realize that God is a not only an infinite presence, an infinite power, and an infinite intelligence, but an infinite principle. And in practice, this means to depend on God, not person, place, or thing, and to surrender to that in our mind that fosters joy and fosters happiness and fosters love and peace and harmony. And this is the basis of the radical Jesus' teaching, ask and it shall be given you. In other words, claim it. So we know these words, but some of us have failed to fully understand them due to the translation of the language of Jesus into the languages that we understand. Once again, in the language of Jesus, ask means to claim. It means to claim it. In other words, we must name it and claim it if we are to receive it. This is not something new for those of you who have been following this ministry, but for many people it is a new idea that they have yet to realize. Why can we feel a confidence in claiming it? Because we know that if God is all, that God is spirit, that God is intelligence, that good idea, that good desire that comes to our awareness, that comes to us to see it, to believe it, to accept it, to recognize it, identify with it, then it must be ours, because God is bringing it to us. And if God brings it to us, God will bring us all things necessary for us to have it, to do it, and to be it. So to understand the process of this claiming and receiving, we can recognize how we feel when we claim that which is ours. Do we feel a sense of ownership? Now that we have it, has having it changed us? Now that we have it, does it still hold the same level of appeal to us? Are we willing for everyone to have the same thing if they want it? And how has having it affected our relationship with God, our provider, our source of all good? Do we still want to expand the good that we have received? The answers to these questions are very important, for whatever it is that we have received must provide an affirmative answer to all these questions. In other words, a yes to every question, a yes to every question. Yes, it does make me feel like I have it. Yes, it does make me feel like it's changing me and changing my life. And yes, it does have a great appeal for me. And yes, I am willing for everyone who wants something like it or something similar to have whatever it is that they want. I want everybody to feel the joy and everybody to feel the peace and everybody to feel the happiness and everybody to feel the confidence that God responds to them. We want that. Each and every one of us do. At some level of our mind, no matter who it is or what it is, whatever is happening or going on, everybody recognizes that there's a greater good that all of us must realize comes from God. So let's go back to those powerful words from the great Dr. Joseph Murphy. Prayer is always the solution, for God is a very present help in times of trouble. Now, God is the word that we use to identify this infinite presence, this infinite power, and this infinite spirit. That none of us, our human mind can never embody all of God, all of the mystery of God, and the evolvement of mankind's idea of God we'll never get to that point to where we totally and fully understand. Even the physicists who are trying their best to find how this world came into being have yet to discover any great degree what this infinite presence is all about. What this mystery is always confused the mind of man has been developed. No one knows because that's only God's work, God's knowledge, God's intelligence, God's the universe. So we must know that every one of us has an opportunity to tap into that power, tap into that infinite presence, tap into that infinite spirit, tap into that infinite intelligence through faith. Through faith. We must have faith. Prayer is communion. Prayer is communion. So let's go back to these words again from Joseph Murphy. Prayer is always a solution, for God is a very present help in times of trouble. And we can read that in the Ancient Wisdom, Psalms 46:1. You are instructed to pray believing, and you will receive. If this is so, and daily proofs surround us, then prayer is the greatest force in all the world. Prayer is contacting, communicating, and aligning your thought with the infinite intelligence which responds to the nature of your thought and belief. Prayer will bring forth whatever you want and need in your life if you conform to the laws of your mind purposefully, sincerely, and righteously. Then that righteously means through right thinking, intelligent thinking. Prayer constantly is bringing about the seemingly impossible and healing the so-called incurable. In the history of the human race, there is no conceivable problem that at some time has not been solved by prayer. In the history of the human race, there is no conceivable problem that at some time has not been solved by prayer. That's from the great Dr. Joseph Murphy. So let's look at this Psalms 46:1. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. In other words, we can always turn to God because God is always available. We can always turn to God and know that God will respond to us by corresponding to that which we believe to be true for us. Just as gravity corresponds to our physical movements and the things in the material, we can know that in the spiritual that God responds to us by corresponding to that which we believe to be true about us and that which we have faith in, that gives us that greater feeling of having and being and doing, having that faith. Think about it. Just pause for a moment. Don't always let your mind be filled with thoughts. Let your mind be still. Let your mind be still. It's that stillness. In that stillness is where we meet the Spirit. In that stillness, we find that idea. We find that guidance and direction. In that stillness of our mind, we find that flash through our intuitive mind, the ideas that God has for us. So we must allow ourselves to feel that presence of God and to feel that sense of realizing that we're in communion with the Spirit of God whenever we sit and we be still, whenever we pray. Our prayer is our thoughts. Our faith is our thoughts. Prayer is our asking. Prayer is our receiving. Prayer is our seeking. Prayer is our finding. Prayer is our knocking. And prayer is that door of opportunity that opens for us as we commune with God. So as we take it into our mind that we are communing with God, we are living completely and wholly in the Spirit. Even if just for a few moments out of each day we just do this, even just for a few minutes, a couple of times a day, if we can just get our mind to be still and get a sense of the presence of God being available to us right where we are, then all kinds of wonderful things will happen. Let's go back to those words from the Bhagavad Gita, and this was written 1500 B.C. Abandon all varieties of mundane religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. So let's know that this is the Spirit of God speaking to the minds of man. And as we allow ourselves to accept this and believe it for us personally, then we shall find ourselves letting go of worry. So doubt and worry are just stepchildren of fear. We know that. We accept that. And just as Jesus says, do fear not, little flock, for it is the Father's good pleasure to give to you. But it must be your good pleasure to accept it, to ask, to claim your good, to seek it in your mind, to knock on that door of your consciousness until you believe and have the faith that this is absolutely the truth for you. And let's not worry about all the mistakes we've had. Let's not worry about what the world calls saints and sinners. That's just the world's idea. It's a limited idea. And let's realize that God has no pure, God, thou art of pure eyes and to behold evil and canst not look on iniquity. In other words, God's not looking on what we did wrong. God is waiting to correspond. This presence and power and intelligence of God is waiting to correspond to that which we believe to be true for us, that which is directed towards the good and a greater good. Just as Jesus tells us, I have come that you may have life and that you may have it more abundantly. I have come to tell you, he said, that you may have life and you may have it more abundantly, but you must understand that you are living in a sowing and reaping universe, a cause and effect universe, and that your thoughts create your faith, and your faith is an energy, it's a power within you that can draw to you or reject whatever it is that you believe to be true for you. So let's go back to the basics and realize that as we claim the good that is ours to experience by right of desire, knowing that it is of the Father, and when we are steadfast and immovable in our faith that it is ours to claim, in other words, we must feel this increased good as a natural progression of our spiritual awareness, our prayer life, our communion with God, that we're here to have it. We're here to experience it. We're here to do it. I am come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly. We must believe that this I is within us too, and that God, infinite presence, that infinite I, is bringing these ideas to us, for us, as us, to experience. But we must know that this is so, and we must be willing to claim it. Once again, I want to thank you for being with me today. It's been my great pleasure to have you, and I hope you join me for my next broadcast right here on